Guys, I'm sorry. This is not the music we should be having for this. We're going to go right to this. Hello, everyone, and I forgot Matt changed the countdown music, and it really disturbed me, so I jumped right through that. How'd that
I did not change that.
That did it on its own.
Well, I don't know if it did. I don't know whether Nathan did it. I did not change the countdown music. I do not have the skills to change the countdown music.
Stop hating the new music. And maybe Nathan did it.
Oh yeah, that sounds like
Nathan fucking snuck in here to our freaking thing and to change the music because he's got to put his fingers in it. Manipulative bastard. Jesus. Got to just control everything, Nathan. No, I'm just kidding. I just was surprised. I'm used to the dun, 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 dun,
I wasn't ready for that either.
I wasn't ready for it, man. I wasn't ready for it. So that's okay. I should learn how to do that myself. Anyway, hello, everyone, and welcome to Leftovers. It's me, Sean, your host, and Matt, the PowerPoint survivor now. I don't know what that means, but I guess we'll learn. And Malcolm, of course, joining us again, inspiring us with his witticisms, kind words, and I want to stress kind words and insight. Now, thank you. Now, first, I'm going to let Matt get on and go over some things that we recently did, and plug a couple things we're doing. Go ahead, Matt.
Hi. Yeah. So this week's definitely we're going to earn our turn, the title Leftovers. So tonight I think we're just going to wax philosophical a little bit. A couple of topics.
No, we have a plan.
I was out last week. I was very sick. I was glad. Thank you, Malcolm, for stepping in and showing us up.
And showing up. That's all I do.
But showing, yes. Sometimes showing up is good enough. So we're just going to cover a few random topics tonight. I did want to say that if you, starting next Tuesday, we will begin our short run of our live playthrough of the Electric State. I'm pretty excited. I have a whole napkin that I've written my plan out for it.
Oh no, that's how certain other games starts.
I know. The problem is I have to find the napkin. Like I put it in the back pocket of one of my pairs of jeans. It's somewhere in the house. I don't think we've washed it yet, but no, we're looking forward to it. We're going to do a 4-episode run, and we haven't quite figured out the details yet, but at the end of it, we are going to be giving away a limited edition hardbound copy of the TTRPG game. So we're excited to both play and give that away to a lucky listener.
Yeah.
As we move forward on the schedule, we have next week for the show, we have our special guest, Initiative Zero, to talk about Palladium Rifts. And then the week after that, we will have a friend of the show, Mitch Wallace, in to talk about new stuff for Cult, Divinity Lost. And no date yet, but I'm kind of excited. We do talk about mostly TTRPG stuff here, but we are in the realm of all things geek. And so I've been, if you don't know, if you don't look at our channel's regular videos, I've done a couple recent videos on the Starfield game by Bethesda. And just kind of doing that got me connected to some people in that community. And one of the folks, a gentleman named Will NY, who, like us, has leveled up his age stat, does a whole lot of super creative sort of work with mods, but also includes a role-playing element into his videos. And so I've invited him on, and we're working on the details for that. So at the bottom, I said, if you're interested, if you've got projects, if you've got funny stories, if you've got something you'd like to share, a Kickstarter, you can reach out to the AARPGS at gmail.com and let us know. We're always looking for guests. And
great.
I think that's all I've got right now off of this. I mean,
no, that's good. That's good.
All right. So why does my name say PowerPoint Survivor? So I do want to warn folks, there's going to be some PowerPoint tonight, but I want to tell you that I empathize with you. I feel
Malcolm,
for you.
I'm sorry. If you want to leave, you could just.
Malcolm's like,
if I escape now, I am the survivor.
Oh my
But I had to sit through
I'm joining my ES game. Forget
a
this.
2 hour straight PowerPoint presentation this afternoon at work.
Oh, really?
And it was
Oh, God.
mind numbing. And it wasn't just that it was all PowerPoint, no break, no bathroom break, no stop, just one
Really?
person. It was also by folks who love to use so many acronyms. At times I thought I was like, it was like a different language. It was like, it was like we have to synchronize our in outs and our left and rights, down and ups. And I'm like, what is happening? So
that corporate speak stuff.
Oh my gosh.
That is more
Situation.
military speak.
Yeah.
We got to align our focus here to get our forces, and we're not even going to get into it. Anyway, I'm sorry no, I'm not. Fuck you. I'm glad you went through that. I'm glad you suffered. Now you know what we go through. And by the way, we like to use proper English. We got nothing. All right. We have. Malcolm was wincing every time you said that. Your elocution must be improved upon.
You're fine.
Okay. So, all right. So if you notice, our background's a little different because this was the background they used, the map they used just last Tuesday for Eat the Reich. And
where did Matt go?
I was just showing more of the.
Oh,
I see kill hit.
Okay,
can't get rid of all of us.
I did this for a second. So that was a map, and that was the kill Hitler in the corner, which you get us to be so. So that was Eat the Reich map. So something we like to do since our game, something we really like to do, but we rarely get to do because our games are pre-recorded like almost a year in advance, is do a follow-up after we finish a game. We did it after we finished Coriolis. We also did it after we did the
Death in
the Nawading Chronicles too.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to give Matt the opportunity to talk about the system and how he played it and what he thought about it. I watched a little bit of it. I was enjoying the watch and get Malcolm's input, though he didn't get a chance to really get into it, just to see what he thinks based on what Matt says. So Matt, go on about the Eat the Reich in the system.
Yeah. So first of all, Eat the Reich is I would definitely call it a light role playing game, as far as this is not something you're going to play in a campaign over months and years and all this. This is truly something you can whip out at a party, and because it uses 6-sided dice, you don't have to.
Malcolm used to do that all the time.
Just
talk about his
D&D
party.
Yeah. But and it uses 6-sided die, so you don't have to have any special gaming dice. You can just pull out your Monopoly dice or whatever. Yahtzee would be good. And the basic premise is fun and kind of ridiculous. Is that you play a bunch of vampire commandos during World War II, and the entire premise of the game and this map is really the whole world that you play in. Is you are dropped into the outskirts of Paris, and your goal is to fight your way through Paris and climb the Eiffel Tower and board a Zeppelin where Hitler is there, and he's about to give some big speech from this Zeppelin that's tethered to the Eiffel Tower, and you're supposed to kill Hitler. So it's kind of straightforward, but also ridiculous. And so that's the whole premise of the game. That's it. The mechanics of it are kind of cool. Like, you have a character that has if anyone's played any of almost a lot of RPGs, you're just going to see a character that has certain skills, right? And definitely if you've played Free League games like the Mutant Zero, where you have dice pools, also like Shadowrun. So you might have shooting of 3. So if you're going to shoot, you roll 3 6-sided dice. A success is a 4 or 5, and 2 successes on a 6. And a fail on a 1, right? And you've got things like, wounds and blood and all kind. I'm not going to go over all of every single bit of it, but you basically have these dice pools, and you can have equipment or special abilities that add to the number of dice in that pool. So it's basically, that's the basic mechanic, is dice pool. You roll, you count up your successes. The GM rolls, and they can also have successes for your threats, right? Which count against you. Now, that being said, you have to almost wipe away, unless you've played games like The Strange or some other kind of interesting games. You have to kind of wipe away all you've learned about role playing, because it's not like it's not as literal. So, and I'm going to pull up a screen real quick. So the way the game flow works is you have a scene, right? That scene, if this map, and what's on this map, all these locations are your scenes. It might be the Louvre, some sort of fancy theater. And in each scene, you have an objective. And like for our game, we had an objective where we had to steal a vehicle from a car lot, right? And then you have threats, and that can often be, a team of, SS soldiers or a sniper. And each one of those has a number of basically boxes. So it might be like objective 4, and you might have a threat of 4, and that threat equals squad of Nazis, right? Everything else is kind of esoteric. So it's a very narrative drawn game. So when it's your turn, you go, I'm gonna try to use my shooting to, on this scene. So you roll your shooting dice, you resolve the number of successes, and then you can apply those successes either against the objectives, against threats, or hold some of those successes as defensive successes, right? And you're basically, as a group, trying to fill in all of these boxes. But everything else is narrative. It's not like I swing my sword, I hit this one Nazi, and they're dead, right? The game wants you to be as flowery in your description as possible, and to be creative, because it's not just shooting. You also have like terror, you have sneak, and so the skill might be sneak, but what you've actually done, the boxes you filled in might be that I snuck up and strangled like somebody, right? It's not just sneak to do the sneaking roll and then I have to make the attack roll. You're using different narrative catalysts to tell how you're dealing with something. And that's, I don't know, I'm going to leave that up for you guys to chew on here for a second. Or if you've played a game that's similar to this.
Okay, so you how are the threat boxes filled again?
So
are you choosing those threats?
Right, you choose how you spend your successes. So let's say I got 3 successes in a scene. Mm-hmm. And the GM said, well, the group of Nazis shoots at you and they get 1 success, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say I've got 3 successes. I could take 1 success and apply it to their success and negate any damage from them.
Negate their success. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then I could go, well, I want 2 on that threat. So then you'd fill in 2 boxes on that threat. And then you describe narratively, they shoot at me, I shoot and, kill a bunch of, whatever you want to do. It's narratively, right? The more narrative, the fun.
But the more boxes filled in the threat, the less potent the threat becomes.
No, it is a steady state until it's removed.
All right.
So
you're slowly wearing it down, though.
Yes.
By applying your successes. So if I shoot them, like for instance, in that scenario, they shoot at me. I shoot, and I have 3. They have 1 success, and I have 4 successes. I spend 1 success to negate them, and then I use 3 successes to apply to the threat as I tear through their entire columns, slapping them each other with their body parts and drinking all their blood, and then splatting it across
that sounds very almost correct.
Before I slide into the last group, which stands there quivering with their rifles in hand, knowing that death comes as the shadows creep.
God, he does such a good job with that, doesn't he?
He should totally play this game.
Just want to make sure I got the handle on this.
No, that is correct. And kind of think esoterically, like as long as there's 1 dot in that threat, there's just more. There's more Nazis. It's not like there's 1 Nazi. So that's when Tim was playing. It was kind of. Tim, don't be mad if you're watching this later. It was interesting to watch. He really struggled the first episode that we played, because all of us have played so long where we have a big hex map out, we have our little person, and I kill a goblin, and that goblin's gone, and that goblin's not there, right? No. And I step to the left, and I have to watch out because he might flank me. None of that exists in this, right? As long as there's 1 dot, there's
the threat is still remains,
right? Yeah. And they just keep
done
some
damage, but you haven't quite killed them all.
Right. But the objective is somewhat tied and separate, where the objective, like in that one case, was like steal a vehicle, right? So you might go, and how you solve that objective doesn't have to be entirely directed at stealing the vehicle. So my character was focused on getting into the car because I'm the driver, tech guy. But you could just as easily say, I shoot a bunch of Nazis and that helps us reach our objective of stealing the car.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
or a distraction while the car is taken. Okay, got it.
Yep. It's a collaborative effort to try to solve a problem, basically, as violently and awfully as you can.
Which I am going to come back to this and say, I do, this. Okay, all right, I'll leave it at that.
Oh, okay.
As I told someone before, I said it's kind of like, so basically we're just going to, we're terrible people trying to achieve a goal through the most violent and terrible means we can, or something. One horrible, violently stupid thing.
Well, you're just, you're the lesser of two evils.
Well, yeah,
you're definitely the lesser of two evils in that situation. I'm not worried about that.
I will say,
Nathan, evil seems a strong word to be applying to our characters.
Yeah, Nathan prompted us
like
before the second episode. He's like, guys, I want you to really lean into the violence. I think maybe he's working out some issues.
I think he is. If that's what he went to. Yeah.
The only other thing in it is they have challenge ratings sometimes, right? So a challenge means like so some of the sniper teams would have maybe a low threat, like maybe they're only like threat 3, but they have a challenge 1, and for every level of challenge you have to, it basically removes one of your successes. So like to do 1 damage, you have to do 2, you have to spend 2 successes to get one
threat,
one box off, right. Well, and it doesn't have to just be the threat. So climbing the Eiffel Tower at the end was a challenge on it, so it was just hard to get up the Eiffel Tower. So you really had to spend a lot of, and the whole time.
Know the stats among you people.
That's right. And the thing with it is if you don't, the way the GM works is you might kill the threats that are presented at the beginning of the scene, but if you have not filled the objective, threats come. It's endless. It becomes endless threat. So it is a scene. To really close the scene, you have to close the objectives. Getting rid of the threats gives you breathing room to spend stuff on the objective, but the GM won't let you just go, okay, it's over. Now roll dice as long as you want until you take the leisurely climb up the Eiffel Tower, right? That keeps that pressure on, that danger on. Now you mentioned something. So this scenario is pretty dark and awful, right? But there's nothing to say that you couldn't turn this same game mechanic into anything. It could be a heist.
You could be a heist. It could just be defusing a bomb.
Right.
Like we need to get everybody out of the building and we need to defuse the bomb. You've got to apply your threats and your objectives to do that. So to save the people.
Yeah.
So
speed the role-playing game.
Speed the role-playing game. It can be. I mean, it does remind me in some ways, and not exactly, but the idea of there being objective and you having to acquire and apply things as it goes. And that is how like a lot of like Savage Worlds dramatic task, and I think they have a new combat skill too, like that, but I think it's actually the newer one.
Well, I thought it was interesting. The game gave you a lot. It wasn't so restrictive. It gave you a lot of leeway on how you did things. Because the skills are so broad, it gives you a lot of abilities to describe because it isn't that many skills. For when I saw you guys were doing, well, of course, Dathy gave you the artistic permission to do things, which made it much more amusing. It really did. That and Chris's vampire potato overlay.
I would say that if the one drawback could be, because I think Tim even mentioned it too, is that unfortunately because it is so narrative, and maybe the way Nathan ran it was very loosey-goosey, where he wasn't restricting us to narratively match our actions to a skill tightly. Because why would you use any of your other skills, right? So like I had a shoot of 3, but a fix of 4. So that's why like I would try to steal the car or use something mechanical, because I can get an extra die out of, if I use my fix skill. And that's why I think like Tim's character did terrify a lot. yeah, I don't know if I ran it, I might want to put some, Nathan loves, I love to put some walls up to force the players to be at least ground their narrative to a skill.
No, you just want to be a tyrant. It's okay.
I know.
I don't know. It's yeah. I think it's often with it being so open. Yeah, it can be hard to have them to ground a narrative to a particular skill, and part of the mechanics may be they don't want you to. They want you to just sort of be free willy with that, and just sort of like these skills are just very light suggestions, and you can lean into whatever one you want to. You can do the whole entire Matt paints you in a corner where like basically you use terror is my big thing, but but these are the dead inside SS shock troopers who have one die against fear, so you better choose something else. It's like, oh crap,
it's the Care Bears. Oh my god.
But they all wear like just silken occult robes. You can probably shoot them dead, but so you make them do that, or you're like, the only thing you can fix is it appears to be a donkey cart, so there goes your fix. So you could do things.
Donkeys.
Okay, mule cart. I mean, I don't know. You basically ox cart.
Ox cart. Okay. There we go. Ox cart.
So basically, you can't effectively use that certain skill, so you're sort of forced to try something else. Yeah, that would be interesting. I think you're right. It would be a challenge for the players, and would add a bit more interesting to the narrative, and it would be so completely you to simply just F them over it. Here's the wall.
Yeah.
Here's another wall.
Here's another
wall.
Is
that a trench? And a trippy shape falling on your head. Thanks.
So, I mean, I don't know why it ran in my head is I thought when I was trying to think of an alternative use or scenario for using these rules was I wanted to go completely lean the opposite direction of like horror and awful and terrible and like apply them to like where you all play characters in like a best of show.
Oh, jeez.
That can be cutthroat, right?
That can be cutthroat, and it's like
it's got objectives and threats.
I need this dog. I need my dog to win, and if it takes me,
that boxer.
If I need to get those judges to understand that we are really trying very best, and me and my partner get along really well. We can go for hours without speaking, or just eat soup and never speak, and that's what makes us a great team.
Yeah, I think that would be, or Honey Heist. Yeah,
Honey Heist.
No, like I definitely think like a heist scenario or like something funny. You could really apply this type of rules. I was really impressed with this.
You have to explain Honey Heist.
Yeah, you have to explain the Honey Heist.
Yeah, Matt, you brought it up. Explain it.
All right, I'm going to explain it as soon as magical Google.
No.
Well, so Honey.
Okay, so basically, Honey Heist.
Different. I have
Honey
a different.
Heist. My impression was that it's a game where you are bears.
Oh, geez.
Pretending to be human. Trying to steal some honey.
Are you serious?
I could be wrong. It's been
correct.
Several years since that was described to me. I mean, like by years, I mean like it's been half a decade.
You're a goddamn bear. I love it. Honey Heist is a surprisingly successful one-page RPG. Here's the plot. You have a complex plan that requires precise timing. 2, you are a goddamn bear. So yeah, if you just search Google up Honey Heist, you could download. Hopefully this is I don't know if this is a reputable site, so don't
Yeah, you just got everybody's information stolen from them.
I know.
That is funny, though.
But Honey Heist is one of those really just...
Here we go. Here's some pictures of it. So yeah. So if the guy's if someone's selling it, go buy it. Don't go free it.
Okay, let's get you.
That's his next topic.
Yeah, the next part of this.
You can wrap this up if you guys want to do some ending thoughts, Matt.
Yeah. Okay. So ending thoughts. Eat the Reich was hilarious. Beyond just sort of probably some catharsis in there. It's a really interesting system. I think it would be fun to bring out at a party. I think you could share this kind of role-playing game with both your regular TTRPG friends and friends who don't play, because it is it's a simple system and it's largely narrative. Have a few drinks, and it would make a great port into a lot of other different stories. So give it go out.
A lot of other narrative systems. Like, I mean, like a lot of the goodness, why am I having a brain freeze right now? Powered by the Apocalypse games usually require a lot of narratives to work with the moves that you're given in the game, and because they're just I know their stats are really just really kind of vague usually in whatever the system it is, and then you have moves that define your character, at least what their actions are to a certain degree, and you still have to explain those actions, you know. But yeah, so I think it is definitely. I think it definitely would be a different sort of entry point for role playing, but maybe definitely much more accessible as far as a lot of people at first. And it gets over that very big hurdle of seeing the narrative part of role playing, as opposed to dealing with the actual mechanical technical parts.
Sort of
Because a
like
lot
an
of time,
icebreaker.
yeah, and because a lot of games now are getting to the point where you are um, you have a very mechanical part, and they're asking you, well, what does that look like? And the thing is, if a player is coming into role playing and they're used to describing what they want their character to do, I think now in more modern games, there's more of a chance of being able to say, well, if you want to do that, this is what you'll need to do, or this is the challenges, or this is the difficulty you may encounter, or the conflicts, or that should be pretty easy based on your knowledge of this thing. And I think that's a lot healthier for players if you have someone who's a good runner for that, like a GM for it, because the thing is, it allows them to sort of think more of what they can do as opposed to limits of what they cannot do or what the rules restrict them from. They're going to be more prone, which for some GMs is frightening, to think out of the box, to be much more fluid in their thinking as far as their decisions, and also more expressive about and which for me I think is all great. Like, I really enjoy it when, like, you have rules, yes, that will help you do stuff and help you define things. But when you are able to sort of say, I have this talent and this is how I plan on using it, and you're thinking about how I'm planning what I'm going to do first, and then saying, oh, this talent would work for that. Now, think games like, oh God, what is it called? Fate completely rely on this to the point where I think it's a bit too much. But that's my own opinion, where I think that basically you are desperately trying to figure out how your bonuses can apply at this moment, as opposed to thinking about, I'm going to do this and these bonuses happen to apply, which is a lot what happens in some games.
That's interesting. I'm glad you expressed your opinion, but really, Malcolm's opinion is not overwhelming and overruling. That's for let everybody know, even though he makes an eloquent argument and we make weak arguments, our thoughts matter. All right, I just want to say that.
If anyone watching this tonight or later ever does go out and play this, and we'd love to hear feedback, so just circle back around and drop a comment or something like that.
Yeah, really,
it would be great.
Check the live game. Check the live recorded. It's just they're right up on our website. They're not long. It's a good, easy listen to. Listening to your car. It's amusing. It's funny. It's and remember, it's live, so it's none of this like editing taking on. It's truly us and our element, not putting our foots in our mouths, which is rare. So I'll leave it at that.
Not putting our foots in our mouths.
So
okay,
the next thing we're going to roll into is when Matt would like to talk to is breaking canon, which is something. It's a good topic actually.
Breaking canon.
But Matt, we're at the halfway point, so I'm going to let Matt do his thing that he loves to do before we get into breaking canon. Canon being, as you all know, those things in the story that are supposed to never be changed because it's canon. All right, go ahead, Matt.
All right. Well, welcome to the mid-program grovel. I should just call it that, the mid-program grovel. Hey. So thanks for tuning in tonight, and thanks for checking out our stuff, both live and recorded. Just want to remind folks, if they do enjoy what they're listening to hit that like button, hit that share, just keep hitting all the buttons all the way down, and we appreciate it. Also, if you get a chance, if you'd like to learn more about the show, you can go to our website. You can catch our episodes. You can read and listen to more information to get to know the cast better, except for Tim.
But we interviewed Tim. We haven't linked
We
the
did. I
episode
haven't linked it yet. I got to link.
Oh,
my
it.
gosh.
We did him live.
How many months ago was that?
It's
Years?
a long time ago.
Is
Well,
it
we
a- it's
finally
over
About a month ago, we interviewed him.
Yeah, we interviewed him finally a month ago. But
Oh my gosh.
you can check out our current story here as well. But you can also find our previous stories to include our early test episodes
Oh,
of
boy.
Alien Destroyer
Great
Worlds.
episode. Such fun that was. God,
When
it
we
was
were
so much
learning
fun.
how to do stuff.
That was awesome.
And while you're there, don't not stop by to pick up our adequate, any of our adequate
I wanted to see if you were going to
merchandise.
say it.
Look, I gotta
You
tell
should
you,
call them sufficient.
sufficient. All right, we're now we've
Sufficient.
Sufficiently.
Let's
You
be
make it
honest,
sound so much
folks.
better than I did. That's,
Let's be honest, folks. When ordering one of these shirts, I'm sure there's a view of yourself that you have and where you are in the spectrum of what size you wear. Just order one more higher. Just go ahead. Just swallow that pride. And, if you normally wear a medium, grab a large.
unless
'Cause,
it's a polo shirt. The polo shirt's actually your size, right? I'm just going to say that.
You know what's always sized right? The coffee mugs.
I
You can
have
get
one.
a quality
Coffee mugs are
mug
great.
with original artwork. Who doesn't
They're
want a miserable beast?
really good.
Ooh,
coffee
upgrade.
mugs.
Yeah, that's right.
They are really good coffee mugs. Yeah, you can get
I was-
your. Who
And the
doesn't
hoodies are
want
very
a
good.
miserable beast coffee mug, right?
Yeah, yeah. Get summon the devil. Get a miserable beast coffee mug.
And here's a little tip. You can shop for these things on our YouTube site, but I would go to our website first, and because you will find the same and a larger selection for less. I
Oh, those
don't know why.
freaking awesome hoodies. That's true.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
the
hoodies,
hoodies are
right,
awesome.
right. So all right, so that's the end of my hawking of the goods phase of the program. The would you call it sufficient merchandise?
Adequately sufficient.
Adequately sufficient.
I was
Or
talking about the
sufficiently
shirt,
adequate.
which everything else is pretty good, but there's
Everything else is really good. It's
The
just the
shirts-
one
the hat,
vendor.
Officially
my
filled the
baseball
definition
cap
of
is great.
The baseball cap. Our one vendor though is adequate.
There you go.
And I want to just make a comment about potatoes. We don't talk about potatoes enough. They're the staple, and in the coming darkness, potatoes will keep us alive. You can grow them in dirt. Yes.
you don't want to talk potatoes.
What is how about what we broke down?
Potatoes are so good, man.
You left.
They are
Did
so
you
good.
catch the llama discussion?
No, I didn't. I was off by
You know what's
then.
better than llamas? Potatoes.
Potatoes.
Okay.
The llamas are good.
Did you know Tim has had llama parties?
What? That doesn't surprise me. Why am I not surprised?
I need that.
I'm not
defined
surprised.
For me,
Go
now.
back and listen to episode 2 of Eat the Reich. Nathan needs to take a break around like an hour and like 40 minutes in, and Tim launched into a whole story about llama parties.
Oh my God. I'm not surprised.
I don't even know what that means.
So
I
Tim is
really-
very
I really
has some
don't know what
eclectic
that
tastes,
means.
It's
I'll
very
jokingly
literal.
say.
Like
It's
you literally have a
eclectic
pot.
taste.
You have a llama there, and everybody just pets the llama and lets it spit on them.
Yep.
Oh God. All right. Well,
All right.
there's nothing wrong with that. So into our next topic before we get
Okay?
canceled.
Let me just wash
yeah,
away
Got
that. So I'm
canceled
like,
YouTube.
I'm
like,
not kink shaming. I'm just like, well, that's interesting.
oh, whoa. We weren't
So-
even going to take it in that direction, Malcolm. What the hell?
I know.
Look, look, everybody up in the
took
corner.
it
Kill
in that
Hitler. Be
direction.
distracted. Be distracted. Kill Hitler. All right. So we're going to go into breaking
So
canon.
breaking canon.
All right.
Now,
Breaking canon. And
now
go ahead.
I just want to say that I am one of those people who when you the first thing when someone says breaking canon, I think of usually an established sort of franchise or something that you are either that you break the fundamental nature of that franchise in order to tell a story, and a lot of times for me that usually destroys my connection with that story, your story,
Well, you're talking about the franchise, right?
yeah, because you're thinking about the franchise and you're thinking
All right.
in that sense. But there's a lot of game worlds where where that has happened. And I mean, like, I've had different reactions to it. Like the biggest one was Traveler. for me. Traveler role-playing game.
What did they do in Traveler?
So with Traveler, you always had this sort of long-lasting empire. This empire that lasted, an emperor that was, on the capital, parsecs so far away you never deal with it. But the empire rolled on, just sort of existed, and it was just the backdrop for all your crazy adventures. And sometimes, you're, sometimes an antagonist, sometimes, an ally, depending on your situation. But it was always there. The empire ruled by emperors, the nobility and everything all set up, the nature and strength of the actual trade lines, everything worked fine, It wasn't perfect, but it worked fine. And then with Mega Traveler, what they decided to do was to assassinate the emperor and kill the royal family. And set the whole entire large expanding galaxy into a state of rebellion and conflict with one another with various factions. And for me, I didn't care for that, because, it's the one thing is there's such a stagnant sort of background that you can just sort of do what you need to do and didn't have to worry about stuff changing. And this was a big change. And they later went one stage further after that, and then decided to literally destroy the jump drive system by having a virus spread throughout the galaxy that was, erasing, sort of codes for jump and disrupting jump lines. So basically everything went back to a dark age, in Traveler. And I think that really sort of, that sort of like for a lot of us people who had been playing Traveler for years, since, it came out in 1977, and we've been playing for at least, some of us since, from in the 80s on to the 90s. This happened like the late 90s, I think, or something like that. And maybe early 2000s. It was sort of a shock to the system and something that was changed that was too great, I think. But, they continued to, the company, they kept continued with that until they closed, until they basically shut down.
Mm-hmm.
What was so funny is after that happened, as they were, before that shut down, like, they licensed their game to other companies. So like GURPS, like, Steve Jackson picked it up and converted to GURPS, and they just did an alternate history where the emperor doesn't assassinate. As a matter of fact, it opens up with the emperor having a bad dream that he was assassinated.
Brilliant.
We just go on, and the universe sort of expands on as it normally had, but just being converted into GURPS system. And they just write, books expanding the history from where just, for the assassination, which didn't happen, onward. And it was pretty interesting how people sort of split. But, the Mega Traveler galaxy where the emperor died was very interesting and very new and very conflict-filled universe. And I think, at the time I wasn't ready for that. It had been my, Traveler had been the first role-playing game that I got away with playing in my house. That's the first game I could have in my house. It was, didn't have any demon worshiping, apparently, or demon summoning, or actually what was happening, demon slaying in the game.
Thank goodness for games like Gamma World, Traveler, Star Frontiers, right? Because you're right. There were several people that we knew that were not allowed to play any of the D&D stuff, but could play Marvel, Top Secret, Gamma World.
We could play non-fantasy games.
So who are you playing in Marvel? I'm playing Mephisto. What? Yeah, just,
but back to what you're saying,
Morbius.
I would love to hear what you say about breaking the canon, because sometimes.
So I like Matt.
That Mega Traveler world, even though it wasn't my favorite,
it
did. Some people really loved it, and loved how it changed this long-standing sort of stagnant universe.
I like the Matt to jump in because we got the phase world up.
Well, and so
because in our experience doing it,
right. So this will be an example, but I do want to say that so breaking canon. You're right. It's taking something that is existing and set, and turning it on its head, or doing something that could be a small change. It could be a large change, right? You could break canon and have it be a very small change, or it could be a like in the Traveler, it was huge. Another one that I think, and it's been a long time, was in D&D, and I can't remember if it was Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk, where they killed the gods or
Forgotten
something.
Realms,
yeah. So there was a whole weird period of time, like, well, technically my character was supposed to be dead because they killed the god of assassins, and like all assassins were supposed to have died. And at the time I was playing an assassin, right? It was like And I don't remember what the catalyst was for that was. It was something that in their storytelling where they were trying to shake up, and I don't know if that worked.
Yeah, and they wanted to do some new books and stuff. A lot of new books.
Yeah, yeah. So many times when you see canon shaken up by the person who writes the product, it's because they want to sell some new books.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They went from Traveler to Mega Travelers. That was
Right,
the whole kind of launching old thing. Yeah.
So there is a profit motivator. So I'm not going to. Yes, there's a profit, and I've seen a few others. So we're gonna. What I'm going to talk about is I have a really bad habit of when I read world settings. I don't know what it is, but I will find some piece in the lore that's like the worst possible thing that could have happened, or like the big thing that could have happened. I'm like, well, I want to put that in my game. And so what I was going to talk about breaking lore is when I ran my second season or my second chapter of Phase World. And if you guys don't know, Palladium, for most people who play Palladium Rifts, my understanding is they play on Earth. It's a great setting. We're going to talk to those guys here next week about it. I love that setting. It's monsters, it's sci-fi, right? The original setting. It's all on Earth. You know, there's a great catastrophe and magic spills out and Earth's invaded. It's a great story. And even in that system, they kind of did a little bit of an attempt to shake up their own canon when they did the Coalition War.
Yeah,
right?
That was a good book.
That was a major, it didn't completely change the game, but it was a big enough shift that you can kind of play before the war, during the war, and after the war, and the dynamic is slightly different. In this case, Phase World, they've produced significantly less books on it. Phase World is set in a fictional area called the Three Galaxies, and there are 3 nearby galaxies, and it's high sci-fi drama, space opera drama. And there are competing empires, and there's, all kinds of stuff you'd expect if you've watched something like DS9 or Babylon 5. But what one of the central core pieces of the Phase World, the 3 galaxy settings, is a planet called Phase World. And on it is this city called Center. And Center it's basically, think of it as like the Switzerland of the 3 galaxies. It's
Nexus.
It's settled and run by this sort of enigmatic race that has actually the power over time and space itself. And so nobody messes with them because they're so dangerous, and they're sort of the custodes of this giant city called Center. And above the planet are these giant space gates. But this particular people, the Prometheans who manage it, they'll even tell you, well, the city's just always been here. They're not like, yes, we built this city, right? So it's kind of an enigmatic setting, but all of these stargates and all of these phase gates and magic gates is a central hub for logistics, for commerce, for diplomacy, everything. Not every single ship passes through here, but it is a major hub. So it is kind of the center of this storytelling world, right? And then you've got all kinds of other adventures in other places, but that's kind of your anchor. And when I read the setting, there's a very brief few sentences about the first like the first ones, right? Every good sci-fi has like the first ones or the old ones, right?
Yeah, everyone has to have a precursor.
And it was basically this idea that the first ones built this amazing machine called the Forge, which they created star systems and planets from, and all this stuff.
All that garbage.
Right. And that one of them was bad, right? There's always a bad one.
There's always a bad one.
It's a bad one.
It does not sing in a chord.
Right. Who
I'm a baritone.
Takes control of the Forge in an instant and wipes out the rest of his brethren. The Forge, which at this point is sentient, realizes the crime that it's done, and it prisons this first one.
Doesn't wipe him out and prisons him.
No, it imprisons him, right? Because it feels bad because it just killed all of so it doesn't want to finish its genocide.
I mean, just clean slate that thing, I mean.
So just these few sentences, and of course that was my anchor. I'm like, well, this has got to be what my campaign's about, right? And so, long story short, the culmination of this multi-year campaign is a giant battle at Center, where you find out that Center itself is a huge, massive focusing device for a weapon, which has been placed there strategically somehow, just for this kind of thing to happen if the first one comes back and decides to devour the universe, right? And so the party saves the day, but this city is consumed in this final act. And so that's kind of the end. And then we wrapped it up, and it was almost 10, 15 years before I decided to run it again. And I was trying to think about, well, what can I do? And I wanted to say, okay, well, we've taken this anchor out, right? In the Traveler world, it was the Imperial family, right? And here's this anchor of commerce, diplomacy, trade, logistics. How does food get to these places? What happens to the three galaxies if you pull it out from underneath of them? And so I called it was Phase World Dark Ages, right? Because there was definitely not everybody died, but there's definitely certain planets that survived because they made a mineral and they got food sent to them. And that food got there on time because it went through a portal, and now that ship couldn't get there anymore.
Yeah,
so
basically
massive changes. Well, right. So there's massive changes, and it's basically redrawing the map into zones where tighter clusters could still supply each other. But if you were an outskirts world, would you be able to still supply your fleets if you couldn't move them? So this was I wanted to continue the story to show consequence for what happened at the end of the first story, but also shake up which is the writing for this is fantastic. The setting is great, but what would happen if you shake things up and maybe some people that were strong in the first story aren't strong anymore? And I think I've kind of seen a little bit of really good in Babylon 5 is probably my favorite of that, where you watch the Centauri who start out in the series as a people who were great.
They're declining.
Great.
Yeah.
But then, through a lot of very bad decisions become great, right? Again, for all the wrong reasons. So that was it. That was the idea, was to sort of, and for me, of course, because I'm not selling any of these products, it was to kind of to create a fresh look for both myself and for players who'd played for years in this setting, who had become very comfortable with the players and the, who's on top and who's on bottom. That's kind of awkward, but
yeah, that's
who's got the oil,
who's pitching, who's catching. It's
still not good. Still not good.
who's Diddy? Whoa, we take a little.
All right.
So there you go, Malcolm. And it was so funny. You were describing how much you hated what they did with traveling. Oh, he's going to really hate my idea.
Well, no. I thought it was good as a player, though.
It was. That was a good breaking. I think with Traveler, in that sense, I was young when it happened, and I was very attached to that particular way that universe works, and and it's the same thing with particular TV shows and so forth, or genres, or currently people get very, very connected to a particular way that genre, or that way that franchise works. And then when it takes a drastic change, it can be painful. Sometimes you wish it take, if the thing is like it, in the case of, Traveler, that was obviously a rebranding in hopes of gaining more people and being more edgy. Did it help the story? I don't really know. I don't know. I didn't really know. I thought it did. And I mean, in hindsight now, I think it did help that story. It did, take people who were, who didn't want to be in a sort of stayed situation to now be in a very fluid one, where basically there was like these pocket factions, and then there was in between these parsecs of just complete danger, where you had factions clashing with one another, and it was just a no man's zone kind of area, and things that happened. I think I can't remember what it's called, but the later virus thing they did, I think that kind of just broke the back of that story, because that took away the one thing as far as the jump drives and the nature of it, and sort of
just a different game then, right?
Yeah, it became such a completely different game that it lost Traveler, And it was like, well, and seriously, that same system, that same background with a different game system would have been very interesting and fun to play. But as far as if you play Traveler, it was like everything that I know, even the rebellion, is now gone.
Yeah.
Right.
And it didn't last very long after that. And pretty much, I think that's when it just sort of folded up, and then Mongoose takes over, and Mongoose goes back to form.
All right. So I think when we're looking at when as a player in Matt's game is Palladium game, the Rift's game, from the first iteration, and my character was a key character. My character pulled the trigger, so to speak, to destroy the universe, jokingly, but it really did. Yeah, not surprising, right? Accidentally, unintentionally. But it gives that whole arc. And then we came back to it later when he said, okay, this is the world. Poof. Even though the characters, now you're playing the characters, you're not metagaming, but you know the history. All of us knew the history of where we came from. And he's described, yes, and the what was the race? Like some of the races who had magic and new stuff. The ones that had the Imperial Guard. The
Kriegor.
The Kriegor, like nobody heard from them because they were about going to the Civil War when we left the story. So nobody really knew what happened to them. And then some of the Prometheans were gone. And then you had the warlocks.
Right, because it's not just the city, but before the city was consumed, all of the Prometheans left.
All of them
disappeared.
So there was this whole thing.
And that's another aspect, because they have a technology that's out there called phase technology. That's like this super high technology.
Yes.
Great shit. It's all gone.
But the whole thing with the story for me was it wasn't a new game. It was the same game. It was just the whole dynamics of the politics and the power had changed, and what was new, what had been was gone, and the characters had to be aware of, like, space travel took some time, and magic still worked. There still were a lot of the same weapons out there. It's just that the whole power dynamics had changed, and Matt was introducing things that we never followed up on to, like, bring back some of that technology for travel and stuff. We ended the game, and he hasn't had a chance to pick it up again because we started doing this and we've been playing a bunch of games, and there's other stuff. So I think he will again one day pick that up once, because it is intense. It's a very detailed game. But I thought versus Malcolm was talking about, which is like you're basically completely changing. It's a new game. Traveler became a new game.
It did.
Well, Matt's thing was that you took a piece of the story, which is canon in the books, and you said, okay, you're almost creating a different like an alternate universe, right? And that's what you did. You just said, okay, this is going to branch out and go in a different way. I'm not changing the entire game, nothing, in a sense, but I'm changing the story now where it's going to be a big shift. And then we're going to take we don't know what happened to our characters in the old game, guys. We don't, because we ended the story. Well, we know what happened to one of them. We think we know what happened to one of them. We think one of them's a protagonist, a new game, but we had to start with brand new characters. So I didn't ever play Traveler. And if you were playing a game of Traveler and the universe got destroyed, I don't know how that would, and you're playing right after that, that would be fucking shocking.
I think that would be
shocking.
I think it's most games usually either start like you start, and right now most games are like after this thing happens. Most games will start like after the center disappears, they collapse, Oh, you guys were great, and now you're doing and struggling as this happens. A lot of games now are based on after the fall or or the decline of your particular thing. Which was so funny is a lot of games in the early 80s were about the rising up to or the fall after. You had both of them. What's so funny is like Games Workshop did they had like Twilight 2000, and then they had Traveler 2300, which is one is about the fall of mankind, the other one is about the rise into space, and it was like, and they literally were in the same timeline, sort of. And you didn't know how, but they were kind of like, but they probably
same universe.
Right.
They just hinted that maybe they're the same universe.
Well, that's kind of the Star Trek story, right? So Earth goes through these terrible wars. Earth has nuclear wars and all this stuff.
And then
it's after that they're able to.
Yeah.
And so,
at the darkest hour, we get together and rise like a phoenix.
Traveler doesn't go anywhere near as good as Star Trek. They're pretty seedy for the whole entire thing, just flat out. But what's really, it was, I think at the time it was a bit of people who were really used to this universe and it taking this big change. But then again, that is like, it's also when you look at a game and you look at a game world that's presented to you and you say, I just want to reach in there and break that and see what happens. Or more likely, characters have gotten used to this being a staple, and then suddenly what happens when people have lived on this lived in this fantasy world for so long, and then there's a crisis that comes up. The protagonist, the players, ended up defeating it, but some other faction chose to take a more drastic thing, and they're just gone after that. Like literally, we were able to defeat the evil overlord Smagarot, but all the wood elves thought we weren't going to do it and just buggered out. So there's this big, huge gap politically and socially and economically of every single wood elf on the planet disappearing, kind of thing. It was in the Silver Heron campaign that I ran. It was sort of in the distant past. That basically, it was the cataclysm was literally the breaking of that world was in their past, and then it was later. It was eventually we didn't really get to the end of the characters as they went up in level would eventually realize that their civilization was the catalyst and the reason that broke it. That whole entire peoples utterly disappeared from the world or were destroyed or vanished in their attempt to try and escape it, but I don't think it's any spoilers, but that was one of the part of the things. It was like, this horrible thing, this cataclysmic thing happened because of them, and the question becomes, do we reverse it? Because their main antagonists are people who want to reverse and stop that thing from happening in time, which means their civilization would be destroyed, but billions more would live. But it would be a different world. And so that was the conflict they were going to come to eventually. But unfortunately, the 5e weariness set upon the players and me. But now they're thinking, there's Savage Worlds. And I'm like, well, let's just breathe for a bit on that one.
Yeah, so I think that there could definitely be, whether if you're a company trying to sell books or if you're trying to shake something up with the players, breaking canon is something you could explore, but there's risks, right? There's risks if you change a mechanic that disadvantages a player or removes a part of the game that people really enjoy. Right.
Or feelings that the game gives. Like, you can think about if
jumping all the math that you're not doing.
All the math you're not doing and
calculating your
all your previous calculations have now changed and gotten suddenly worse.
Get out your slide ruler.
It was more of that problem. It was like, wait, all the previous calculation tables that helped me make this faster are now have to be redone. I hate this, Yeah, that was one thing. But I think another thing was like, for instance, when you break, if you want to call it, breaking canon, with shows, with like franchises, I guess the big thing is that you are taking one of the hallmarks of that particular franchise and disrupting it. So like, when you make every single Jedi a putz in your game, it's kind of like, well, why the heck are they even, this sucks, or, you decide that, that kind of thing. But then you have things like, for instance, think about Battlestar Galactica. The old show had a basic canon that obviously the humans were good, the Cylons were bad, the end, and they had no legitimate reason for one to kill us except for they were machines, and machines hate us, the end. We didn't talk about it anymore. We're just trying to struggle to get back to Earth, which is an awesome place. Why they thought that, because it's the 80s, we don't know, but regardless, it was that kind of thinking. Yet, I will say the new Battlestar Galactica series start to look at the fact and look at why the Cylons were doing what they were doing, And there's even like when they did the Blood and Steel, I think miniseries, brought in the questions of did the 13 colonies actually start this war that caused the Epitist to make them say, the only thing we can do is get rid of you because you are dangerous. And so it then sort of turned everything. It sort of broke canon and simply saying of giving it this very black and white sort of situation and then making it very gray. And I think a lot of times it's probably better to, in some cases, it's good to have nuances in certain conflicts. But eating the Reich, no, it does not.
No,
you should eat and kill Nazis.
No, you know what though?
But
really, the game that needs to be, the canon needs to be shattered, like is Honey Heist. Instead of bears, let's get. Because
you find out you're all just a bunch of weasels hiding, wearing a bear rug.
You're weevils. You're little weevils. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we've learned here is that we've learned nothing. We've absolutely learned nothing. We've gained no insight and greater knowledge. No, we had a great review of our last game, Eat the Reich, and Breaking Canon. So basically, if you want to break it, as long as it's a good story and everybody enjoys it, go ahead and do it.
Definitely.
Unless it's Traveler, which it means it's sunk.
Don't mess with it.
No, you can break Traveler.
And I've never played
it'll
Traveler.
survive.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and if you've done like or played in a game like that where someone took like a well-known thing and maybe turned it around, like I said, let us know. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear about it because I'm sure there's other people out there doing it.
Yep, there has to be.
Everybody's doing something.
It's a definite way to make your game a lot more dynamic and definitely change the perceptions of where your players stand. Particularly if you have the thing, you do the break and they continue on. Like where do they pick up the pieces? All
right. So I just want to remind everybody on March 4th, episode 1 of the Electric State, Matt will be creating.
I will be not breaking canon, but I will be doing something weird over the course of the 4 weeks.
I'm going to tell my EO on you.
You're going to do something. It's weird enough. I don't know why he needs to make it weirder.
I'm going to tell him, you got a high bar to set after interviewing her.
I'm not going to be as good as my is. I'm going to let's level set our expectations.
All right, level set our expectations.
And we'll set it back to 0. Taking it
that'll
be
our
11.
next live.
Turning it down from 11.
and next week we'll be doing, of course, we'll be having the the Palladium Riffs guys on. God damn, I forgot their names. Matt knows.
You're terrible.
I'm a terrible.
Use your words. Use your words.
I've had a lot of shots to the head.
Initiative 0.
Like I had a lot of shots to the head, and I had a very, very rough job for years. I'm going to be the guy in the fucking corner eating soup. That's all I'm going to say, drooling. Anyway, y'all take care now. Matt, any final words?
No, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next Tuesday for AARPG Live, and we'll be back next week with another episode of The Leftovers.
Malcolm?
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for watching, and I'm glad that you're able to participate in our sort of streaming consciousness and enjoying it. Hopefully enjoying our role-playing insights. And please do pay attention and sort of tune into our live show on Tuesday with Electric
State Live.
I know Electric State
Electric
Live.
Shock.
Electric Shock Live. We're going to break canon.
And of course, Therapy Live.
And of course, joining us again on Thursday for another Leftovers.
Yes, and I want to thank everyone again and going through my suffering. Peace, love, and bubblegum. Y'all take care now. You hear? And good night.
Good night.
Bye.